Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Sam, and I'm going to be bringing you guys some FPL content. Hopefully, there will be a couple of videos a week, just sort of going through my team, how things are going for me, looking ahead to like future weeks, how you can sort of plan your team and what sort of popular transfers there are, maybe some transfers you should avoid, trends that you should look for, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully if that's content that you're interested in, then please do subscribe to the channel and keep an eye out for more. I'll be posting on socials and stuff as well. All the socials will be Deviate FPL. So yeah, my just a quick like background about my sort of FPL career, so to speak. I've been playing the game probably for about 10-ish years, something like that. I started playing back in like probably like 2014, 15, and played for around 5-6 years. And actually I became quite disenchanted with the game back then. Got to the point where I was just taking it very seriously, sort of. It starts to give you a jaded view of football and your own team and stuff like that. I'm a Chelsea fan, and I actually ended up deleting my account because back then I couldn't deal with the stress. So I didn't play for about 2-3 years, and recently in the past couple of years I've got back into it just to sort of play against my friends casually. Haven't really taken it seriously the past couple of years, but this year I've really gotten back into it. I really enjoyed sort of playing the game this year and taking it seriously again. So I thought I'd make some content, talk about my season, and hopefully how you can improve your rank as well as mine. So that's a little background, and yeah, as you can see on the screen, this is my current team. Obviously didn't have the best week last week. I think it was a pretty tricky week for a lot of managers, with sort of captaincy decisions, a lot of the sort of popular players not doing too great. But on the whole, not been a terrible season so far, sitting at around 119k. And hoping to sort of push that rank a bit further towards the end of the season. I've used my assistant manager. That's the only chip I've used. I used that back in Gameweek 24, as a lot of people did when we had that late announcement about the back-to-back doubles. So obviously it was either going to be back-to-back doubles for Liverpool, or it was going to be Fulham and Spurs, or Fulham or Spurs that also doubled. So back in this week, you can see I made 4 transfers. I'd accumulated 3 transfers, and I was pretty happy with the sort of team as it looked. And I was going to go into the game week with, I think this was probably going to be the team. I had double Liverpool defence. And then in the end, I was just like, I'd made my 3 transfers. I brought in Pickford, I brought in Mbermo, and I brought in Clivert for Enzo Fernandez because I didn't want to lose any more value on him. And then obviously with the announcement, I had no transfers left, but I thought, you know what, I don't see Liverpool keeping too many clean sheets. I don't have Gakpo. I'm just going to go for Slot and get these 5 games. I just felt like that was too powerful. Looking back, I don't regret going Slot, but it was stressful. I think obviously it was a new chip, and a lot of people didn't really know how to play it. So I think for me, I wasn't that convinced that the managers that also doubled would get a lot of points or would get a result. So I thought, Liverpool being the team that they are, with how they're playing the season, I'll back slot, and then I'll go for a table bonus manager in the last game week, which I ended up doing. And in the end, I went for Glasner and got that sweet 20-pointer. So in the end, the assistant manager was a success. I think I got like 48 points in the end with double slot and Glasner. I think if you went Moyes, Emery, Glasner, you'd have got even more, but then obviously that's 2 transfers. So I think it probably in the end you could say it was the optimal route. But it did cost me a transfer. I would have ideally kept it on slot, which wouldn't have actually been that bad given that Liverpool beat City, but I wasn't confident that that would happen. They did beat City, and I think if you'd have kept it on slot, it would have been about almost 40 points. So it wouldn't have been too bad. But I gambled because I said to myself I wanted to go for the table bonus, and I did, and it did pay off. It kind of saved my game week, to be honest. So then, yeah, that brings us back up to this game week. And yeah, as you can see, not the best, but only used 1 chip. Still got my wild card, still got my bench boost, still got my triple captain, which would have been great on Salah for 3 of those weeks, but obviously couldn't play it. So maybe regretting that one a little bit. But yeah, still got the triple captain to go, and still got my free hit. So basically, yeah, I just want to discuss for this first video what my plans are. Sorry if it's a bit rambly. But yeah, what my plans are, how I'm going to navigate the blank game week 29, how you guys can do that, and look at some of the popular transfers and maybe what forwards are going to be best, or attackers in general, over the next week or two, especially given some of the injuries that have occurred based on the FA Cup. So let's just jump straight into it. So we're just going to jump straight over into FPL.team, which is a really useful tool that I use to plan for game weeks ahead, so you can sort of simulate transfers and stuff like that. So as you can see, this is my team for game week 28. Obviously, FA Cup fixtures have wreaked havoc on a lot of people's teams. This is always going to be a risk. I knew that when I was bringing in Cunha, but I had João Pedro, and I couldn't be bothered to have the headache of him anymore. I wasn't sure if he was going to start. I thought if he started, he probably would do well, but didn't know if Brian were playing mind games and Welbeck would have started, and then, swings and roundabouts, isn't it? If Pedro got benched and Cunha played and scored, then it would have looked like a good decision, especially with his fixtures coming up. But that wasn't to be. He didn't score, and he then tried to beat everyone up in the FA Cup. So he is now suspended for, I believe, 3 or 4 fixtures, which takes you to, I think, game week 31, which means he misses his best fixtures by far. I think he might be back for Leicester at home, but there's no way I'm holding on to him for that long. He is 100% a transfer out, which is really annoying, because I had my plans with Cunha in. Obviously, he had Southampton in the game week 29 blank. And I was going to make 2 more transfers with the accumulated transfer I would get from this week. I was going to roll, and then my team would have been fine. I would have had 11 players, but now that has changed. So I imagine there's a lot of people in a similar boat, whether that be with Cunha or Mateta. There's a few players that have got injuries or are carrying injuries. Isak obviously is another one that people aren't sure whether he'll play or not at the time of recording. Eddie Howe, I think he said he was just a bit tired. So I think Isak probably plays. We will hear more before the deadline, but I think Isak probably plays. My gut instinct would say to just keep him. Even if we don't get So we'll probably get a wishy-washy answer from Eddie Howe. He'll probably say something along on the lines of, yeah, he's okay, but we're not sure whether they want to risk him, etc., etc. But I think I would probably just keep him, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to keep Isak this week and start him. I hope that he plays, and I also think that Cunha will stay in my team this week and move to the bench, so it will look something like this. Rodgers will come in. I wanted to get rid of Rodgers, not because I don't think he's good. I love Rodgers as an asset. I've owned him all season, never sold him, through the highs and the lows. But my only problem with Rodgers now is not even so much the blank, it's just Villa's schedule. I think it's always been difficult with the Champions League for them. Like, their form has wavered, but now they're still in the FA Cup as well. And combine that with the fact that they signed a few attacking players, it just makes me worry a little bit. But maybe I shouldn't worry too much, because he just plays all the time. The guy just constantly plays. Emery just thrusts him in every single time when we think he's going to get benched or we think he's going to get a rest. He just continues to play. So I know they've got an important Champions League game this week, but I think he probably plays against Brentford. I'd be surprised if he didn't. So that would then be my team for game week 28. And I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't really like Howson in the back. To be honest, I was forced into making that transfer. I actually had Konsa, and I was really excited when the double got announced for Villa. I was like, okay, I get to use him. Even if he doesn't get a clean sheet, it should still be, 3-4 points. But then he got ruled out. So I had to bring a defender in. I had no extra cash, and that was the route I went for. I don't usually like buying those cheap defenders, but it was really the only option I had other than taking a -4. So I'm stuck with him now for this game week. So he's just going to have to play against Tottenham, and we'll just hope that they can keep Spurs out. It's doable. City managed to do it. So I think that's the team for 28. And the reason that is the team for 28 is if we go to 29 now, that gives me 2 free transfers. It enables me to make some changes based on the fixtures. So obviously in 28, Trent plays Southampton. I don't want to sell Trent for 28. Obviously I want him for that game. I want Salah for that game. But potentially in this week, I will sell Trent. It's actually more like probably I will sell Trent. Salah, I'm not as sure on, but I will most likely sell Trent. And I think a lot of people are going to be in a similar position to this now, where because of the blank game week and because of the uncertainty around the blank game week and the double game week coming up, because of the FA Cup fixtures, it's difficult to sort of predict what's going to happen. So I don't think anyone really wants to make too many transfers based on sort of current information. I think we just sort of want to get through 29 with a team that we can, a decent looking team, and then ideally wildcard in either 30 or 31. So for me, I think for this game week, it's just going to be about trying to stop the bleeding, and obviously have a team that can play in 30 as well that looks good if I need them to play in 30, if I don't wildcard. So I think for me, whatever happens now, it's going to be a -4. And a lot of people, you guys watching, might be in the same boat. It wouldn't have been before, but I think now it is because of Cunha. But because that forward spot has opened up, it does sort of lead to more possibilities, including bringing in Haaland. I'm not so convinced of bringing in Haaland. I think Brighton is a decently tough fixture. I think when City are at home, they tend to definitely have more of the ball. I think away, they're a little bit more susceptible, probably not as controlling in games. So I think obviously a home fixture is much better for them. I probably would expect Haaland to score in that game, but do I expect him to haul? I don't know. This is the thing with Haaland. I think him as an FPL pick is he needs to score or have at least 2 goal contributions to kind of warrant his price. He's still almost a mil more than Salah, and because he's a striker, he just doesn't get all those extra points. So it's like if you've got Haaland and he scores a goal a game, that to me is nowhere near good enough. I would want a couple of goals a game, obviously with the occasional blank, but I'd rather him get 2 goals a game and max bonus and then a blank the week after than a goal a game and no bonus and end up with just like 5 or 6 pointers every week. So I know they've got Leicester in 30, which is a great fixture, one of the best of the year. But it's possible you can navigate that with other City players. So my original plan was to do Trent to Gvardiol, and then it would be Rodgers to Gibbs-White. There he is. And then Lewis would come in for Salah, and Cunha was going to play. But obviously that is no longer possible now. So I have to make one more transfer. And then it's just kind of where I want to make that transfer, or do I even want to still stick with this route? I think I do. I think it's difficult because what forward options do we really have, right? So if I sell Cunha, I think every single forward on this list, aside from like Haaland, Mamouche, and a couple other cheaper ones, aren't options. Like Watkins, blank, Havertz out, Jackson out, Mateta out, Gakpo out, Solanke out, Darwin no, Højlund no. It just keeps going on and on. So there just really isn't too many options. The sort of obvious ones would be Visser, who I actually really like as a player, and I've wanted to get him for a while, but his fixtures aren't great. But I do think that Brentford have Villa at home this week, and I really like that fixture for them. I think they can score in that. I think they're good at home, and I think Villa will be a bit rocky after their Champions League game. So I actually fancy Wissa to do really well in that, but that would mean making the transfer this week, which I'm not sure I want to do. And then would I bring him in for 1 week? Because his fixture after, I think his Gameweek 31 fixture, Newcastle away, and then I'd probably wildcard. It's not 2 great fixtures away from home. So I think he's probably out unless I decide to go for him this week. Evan Nilsson's an interesting one. Like, if he plays this week, if he starts, I probably would be willing to take a punt on him, and he's probably my favourite option, just given the fact that 2 home fixtures against not great defences. Like I said, if he plays against who have Bournemouth got this week, I can't remember, but Spurs. If he plays against Spurs and looks good again and gets good minutes, he's probably going to be in that team. And at his price, that's a pretty good forward. So he could come in, and then we'd actually have 1.2. So could potentially upgrade Gibbs-White. But I don't really know how many more options there are. I quite like Gibbs-White. I think he's got a relatively high floor. I think typically when Forest do well, he's usually at the heart of it. He has good goal threat. He creates a lot. He's very dynamic, and I like having him as an option. I think he'll do well against Ipswich. And then Gvardiol kind of just gives me a bit of City coverage. And I like him for the Leicester game. I just feel like the Leicester game is one of those games he could score, he could get an assist, something like that. He gets forward a lot in those types of games. They've had some difficult games recently, City, and I'm not sure that we've seen the best of him recently because he isn't or hasn't been that strong at the back, but his attacking potential has always been there. So that's potentially an option. In terms of other forwards that people can go for, I don't really like too many of the other ones. Obviously, we've spoken about Wissa, Delap, not really. Welbeck for City, probably not. I don't think Fulham have got the greatest fixture. They've got Spurs at home. It's not terrible, but then would you even be 100% that Real would start? And they've got Arsenal in 30. João Pedro I've already sold. Ironically, he could probably do pretty well, but he's not coming back into my team, probably not this year. The other one that people might go for, maybe Strand Larsen, but I just wouldn't go here at all. I think Wolves without Cunha are rubbish. I think they're quite solid, they're quite compact, but would I fancy them scoring loads of goals? No, especially not without Cunha. So I just would stay clear of Strand Larsen, to be honest. Beto is probably the only other one that I think there's a genuine case for, but you would have to pick him up this week because I think Everton have a decent fixture this week, and then West Ham at home is quite nice, but you would have to then bench him for 30, which, to be fair, is probably possible, right? So if you went with this in 29, which is a pretty nice looking squad, and then you get to 30, Salah then comes back in, and Isak would then come back in, and then that would be my team, and a lot of people would be in a similar position. I actually don't mind that too much because if you went with, say, a Wissa, then you then have a bit of a benching headache for 30. Because would you put Wissa on the bench? Would you bench Wood? Would you bench Gibbs-White? I mean, Man United, pretty awful. Can't see them getting too much better in the next few weeks. You're not benching Mbeumo. He's just got really good output. And again, you're not benching any of the three big guys, plus Cliver with a good fixture. So I think that is a decent option if you think Beto will score. But outside of that, I think that's it for the forwards. In terms of the other midfielders that you could maybe go for if you had a little bit more money in terms of the differentials, Bruno Fernandes, if you could get there. To be honest, I don't think, even if I did this, I would have enough. I would literally have exactly enough to do that, which is interesting. I really like Bruno for this Leicester fixture, but I just don't think it's worth it because you just don't know what you're going to get with United. I know he consistently turns up and he could score really well in this game, but then Forest away is a difficult fixture and he's obviously quite expensive for what he is. So I don't think I would be going there. Punt on Foden, probably not for me. His minutes just, especially with Marmoush in the team, I just don't know when he's going to play. And Burmo's obviously in the team. What are we looking at here? We want midfielders, don't we? Bowen. I like Bowen. I think Bowen is definitely like a sleeper pick. Well, not even a sleeper in the sense. I mean, a lot of people have picked him up. Like he's another one. He's got quite a high floor. Like he's involved in a lot of West Ham's goals. Like when you watch him play, I still think he's much better off the right. Like he's a lot trickier, and West Ham still need a forward with all their injuries. But Everton away and Wolves away, they're not too bad fixtures. I mean, Everton away is tough, but there's still probably goals in that, and Wolves away is pretty good. So I definitely don't mind Bowen. I wouldn't really go near Brighton because of the City fixture, even though they can score. I just think it'll be low scoring. Chelsea, I think, missed the boat on Chelsea. Bournemouth midfielders, I still think hold a lot of value, especially Semenyo. I think a lot of people will have Kluivert, but Semenyo is arguably one of the better picks. I think he's just constantly an attacking threat. He always starts, always plays, gets good minutes, and those 29 and 30 fixtures are about as good as they get. Obviously, Brentford are a decent team, but I could see that being like a 2-2, 3-2, something like that. And Ipswich at home is obviously a great fixture. Don't need to talk any more about that. So Semenyo is another brilliant one. And another possible option for me, like maybe I go Semenyo instead of Gibbs-White and upgrade somewhere else. And that's probably it for the midfield picks. There's a few cheaper ones, but I don't think I'd touch any of these. Elanga, I think obviously if you're strapped for cash, he's probably another good one. I prefer Gibbs-White. And then Dango, We'll obviously have to see how that plays out, but I don't see him being a good pick with Evan Nilsson back now. I think there's just better options. Hudson-Odoi, same thing. So I probably wouldn't go near any of these. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of my state of play for 29, and probably should be a lot of people's. I think if you're going to be trying to force Haaland in, obviously there's big upside to it, but like, what's that going to do for the rest of your team? You know, like if you have to sell Salah or you have to sell Isak, like how is that going to affect the rest of your team? Like for me, I bought Salah at 12.5. If I sell him, I'll have to then buy him back at 13.8. Like I'm going to lose 0.7 on that like a week later when I wildcard. That's just too much money to lose when you're building that wildcard squad. Again, same with Isak. Even with the price drop, I'm still losing 0.5. Like, Isak's going to have a double in 32. Salah's got really good fixtures and he's Salah. Like, I just don't want to sell those guys. As much as I love Cole Palmer and I'm a Chelsea fan, he could go, but then I'm just not in a luxury enough position to be able to sell a player with a fixture. So I think my advice would be to ignore Haaland. Obviously, if you can get him, if you've got a way of maybe selling Palmer, selling Cunha, and getting him, if you sell Trent as well, then obviously you take him, right? But if it's at the expense of Isak or Salah, I think I would stay away. So that's all my game week 29 thoughts for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that and took something from that. I will be back this week with another video before the next deadline. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please consider subscribing and liking the video if you did, and leave a comment below if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.